and welcome to What's It Like with YORX. My name is Yorkwin Walters, and this is a podcast designed to basically speak about different issues related to, whether it is being an immigrant or being in Canada or being a father, being a husband, being a mentor, being any one of those things that I just mentioned, or a combination of all, which I am. And I will not be the only one at all the podcasts. This is me giving some of my my advice and some of the things that I've learned and some of the things that I've gleaned over my 30 plus years, 38 years on the planet. And as you can hear, there's someone here in studio. Who are you?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Yorkwin. I really appreciate it. My name is Meseret. Who am I? That's always a good question, isn't it? I'm a recent university graduate. I am a sister, a daughter, a friend, a lot of things. And I consider myself someone who is, involved in my community, in the community, and in the church as well. So I'm glad to be here. When you asked me to come join and share my thoughts, I thought, absolutely, this would be a great idea. Thank you for inviting me. So I am happy to be here.
You are most definitely welcome.
Yeah.
And when I started this, it's something that I've always wanted to do. But the thing about it is that the timing was never right.
Yeah.
The timing was never right. And something recently happened, and well, not recently, but something happened in 2022 and early 2022, and I decided, you know what, let's do something about it.
Yeah.
And I remember posting something on Instagram, and Meseret responded, one of the people who responded.
Yeah.
And I was so excited that I got at least one response.
Yeah.
And when Meseret, when we were talking about it, there's so much stuff that we could talk about.
Yeah.
There's so much stuff that we could talk about.
Yeah.
And I said to myself, all right, we in discussions we decided, let's take it one step at a time. And one of the things what we're going to be speaking about today is going to be mentorship, especially mentorship in the church, and how it can help to bolster especially the young people in the church. Before we go any further, we want to thank our sponsors, Walters Weddings. Based in one of the world's best countries for destination weddings, that's Jamaica, and also we have offices in Canada, Walters Weddings is your go-to media company. Whether it's photography, live streaming, drone photography, or cinematography, contact our award-winning team at waltersweddings.com and talk to Tina. We're also available for weddings as far north as Canada to as far south as South America. Now, back to our program. One of the problems that I've seen, and I think Meseret has also seen, is that the young people in our church, in the church in general, because Meseret and I go to different churches, different denominations, but still body of Christ. Yeah. When young people don't have that mentorship, then they tend to fall by the wayside. So that's one of the things that we'll be discussing here. And Meseret, tell me, what are some of the instances or some of the situations that you've seen, whether you've helped it or whatever?
In terms of
in terms of mentorship, meaning in terms of whether it is education, or whether it is being a big sister, or giving advice about situations that whether it is a male or female, more likely female, has come to you about.
Yeah, definitely. I think first of all, like, this is a very, I think it's a timely topic to talk about, because one of the things I've observed, you know, especially in the Black community, but also in our churches, is this lack of mentorship. Like, we sorely lack that. And I'll get to like the church in a bit, but one of the things I've seen is the fact that, you know, when I was in university, whether I was working, things like that, oftentimes many immigrant youth, or like Black youth, or just, and especially more youth from almost any background, are sort of almost lost, and we're just like staggering around, so to speak, you know, trying to find our footing. And I wonder how much more, you know, productive and meaningful it would be if we had, you know, that mentorship that we lacked. I know that, you know, things would look different for me. I'm sure that many people could say the same, where, you know, they could say, especially like, let's say in education, they might want to pursue a certain profession or things like that, but they don't even know where to start, especially for you know, immigrant students. And so we all see that there's a need for it, but we're not talking about it. We're not doing something about it. And so I think it's evident. And then in the church, the same thing is happening. There's almost like this widening gap between the older generation in the church, the elders, and the young adults. And it's sort of like, oh man, we need to bridge that gap. We need to do something, so that, you know, young adults and the youth are being, you know, being discipled well, and sort of encouraged and led well, so that they still have that fire for the Lord, and they're not getting lost.
Yeah, and you touched on two main points. One is education. The other one is it actually in the church. As it relates to education, I can tell you that in the church that I attend, which is Seventh-day Adventist Church, there is a huge emphasis on education, and Christian education and Adventist education, because in almost in every country in the world there is an Adventist university. And as it relates to education, however, sometimes going to a Christian university, it doesn't always work out, because there are sometimes those elements whereby, you know, you come as a teenager and or young adult, whatever it is, and this, for some people, it's their first time being responsible for themselves totally, and that sense of freedom can sometimes be exploited. And as a result of that, now sometimes you could where you think there would be no evidence of certain, you know what I'm talking about. I got
you,
yeah, you know what I'm talking about. And sometimes you'd be like, wait, that happens here? And some people are surprised. And even when even something as basic as, what do you want to do with your life? That question is sometimes glazed over. Because gone are the days where people are going to be the fireman, the teacher, the doctor, the lawyer, stuff like that. Right now, there are so many different avenues, and some people don't even have to go to school to make money.
Yeah.
And the next thing about it is that when it relates to, as it relates to the being in church and being like a big brother or a big sister, not many people do that.
Yeah.
Not many people do that, and there'll be people. There'll be people who I've been speaking to, who are willing to come on and speak about, you know, being mentored, whether it is by other people or people such as myself, because I have 3 best friends, my brother and two others, right? One who I grew up with, one best friend who I grew up with, and another best friend that I met in university, right? And I also have many other male friends who I consider brothers, some of which I have helped to mentor, so much so that because it was in COVID, I missed it, but One of them, I'm so proud of him. He got married last year.
Hey.
Yeah.
Congrats to him.
And there's I think he has a baby, or there's a baby on the way, but whatever. But he has told me, and that me being in his life has helped to get him from the negative influences that were in his life, because he's a photographer like myself. He is a graphic artist like myself, and he's a full-on entrepreneur because he started a bow tie company with his then girlfriend, no, wife. And he is, no, I'm not bragging, but he has told me that the mentorship that he has gotten from me and from other people,
That's good.
because he has a father that is not his blood father, but that person has mentored him like a father. So as a result of that, now it behoves us as Christians to try and be mentors, because you never know, you might be that one person that could pull that person from that precipice. Because the thing about it is, what I realize is that when you're truthful with someone and you're vulnerable with someone and you tell them the truth when they ask you questions, that is the most important thing, because people know when you're fake. And you can't be a mentor if people think that you're fake.
Yeah.
And as it relates to education, sometimes someone just wants to be exposed to what they would like to do.
Yeah.
And then that's how they then become, that's how they then end up choosing their career path. And what I want to know is there anyone in your life who has mentored you?
Yeah.
Or anyone who you have mentored?
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I was just processing what you were saying, and I'm so glad to hear that you have been making yourself available in that way for the young man in your life, and hopefully others as well. I think for me, for the most part of my life, I lacked mentorship, and I personally see the impact it's had on my life. But in the past few years, I've been very intentional about finding mentors and saying, hey, what's up? You should mentor me, or consider that. And of course, prayerfully doing that. And I think that, right now I have my pastor who mentors me, at least spiritually, and making sure that, I have that guidance, but also, being peer mentored. So I have very few friends that are in my circle. I have friends. I have many friends, but I don't want people to feel some type of way. But I think there are certain people that I allow into my life, and we peer mentor one another, so to speak. And I'm currently actually in the lookout for a female mentor, and I'm praying about that, because I think there's also a significance to having a mentor who understands what it means to be a woman, and all that. But yeah, it's definitely, it helps, because these are people that I can turn to when I don't know what to do. And talking about the church, right? Going back to, mentorship in the church. I knew I needed that because, one, Holy Spirit was like, hey, buddy, I love that I get to mentor you and counsel you, but I also want you to be under somebody, somebody else. And having that person hold me accountable to things, and when I'm feeling some type of way, or hey, I don't know how to go about these things, that's someone that I can reach to. Another thing is even when I was considering seeing the person that I'm seeing right now, I had to text my pastor and be like, hey, I need some guidance here. Exactly. Yeah. It's hey, especially spiritually, I need some guidance here. Just having those things and someone to hold you accountable for him, just so for him to know, but also for him to be like, hey, if I'm doing anything, you know, he can check me and say, hey, what's up? Like, is this wise? And in many ways, it is helpful. But I find that when I didn't have that, it was so easy for me to just sort of be tossed about like a
Floating
bag,
through.
exactly in the wind. And so I see the value of mentorship, and I'm thankful for those who mentor me and those who take the time to mentor other folks in their lives.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you mentioned that about boys, because let's face it, they're there.
They exist.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned boys or people of the opposite sex and dating, because you're currently dating, right?
Yeah. No.
Yeah, what you're speaking about is actually also one of the core reasons as to why I started this, because let's face it, when you have friends, you're gonna talk to your friends about, especially close friends, about relationships, or the possibility of relationships. And as I mentioned earlier, I have two best friends and some people who I mentor, who I think of my brothers, and I realized that they were asking me some questions, and I kept repeating myself. So I will, let's say Adam asks me a question. I would give Adam my honest answer. And then let's say Steve asks me another question. I would end up giving Steve the same answer that I gave Adam. And it kept happening over and over and over. And what also I realized happened is that, let's say Adam takes the advice, but Steve doesn't.
Right.
Steve would say, you know, I'm sorry I didn't take it. Why didn't I take that advice? And then Adam would take it, and Adam would say, oh, yeah, thanks for that advice, you know?
Yeah.
And as a result of that now, what ends up happening is that I realized that, you know, with the help of the Holy Spirit and the help of God, the advice that I was giving them was working. And of course, it also had to do with some of my experiences, because one of the I'm going to give you one of them right now. And what it is, the advice is, I would say to them, you must break up. As in, the relationship, there needs to be some kind of conflict that causes a break, and then in that conflict, that is where you guys decide whether or not you want to fight to come back together in the relationship.
Interesting.
Because what then happens is that when you have that conflict, the honeymoon phase is over. And you need to get out of that honeymoon phase to work on other stuff, because when you go through, when you're at the beginning, let's face it, when you're at the beginning of a relationship, there's the texting, you know, I like you, XYZ, and then there's all this flirty stuff, and there is all of those stuff, and then you don't really get down to the meat of the matter, like, how is this gonna work? And when you don't go through that and you don't fight to have the relationship work, then let's say you get closer and closer and closer, and you never have none of those experiences. But yet, I mean, naturally, relationships will have those experiences, but there needs to be something that is so catastrophic that you decide to, you know, let's work through this, whether it is through prayer, counseling, whatever it is. Because one of the things that I always tell them is that you need a counselor. And I'm not talking about necessarily a pastor, because let's face it, some of the pastors are not qualified to do relationship counseling. So I would say to them, you need a qualified counselor. So as a result of that now, when you get the real counseling and you see what you need to work on, then you will be able to move the relationship to the next level. Because I've seen whereby one of my friends, he was in a relationship with this person for about 6 months or so. He knows himself, but I won't out him. But he was in a relationship with this person, and they were working at the same place. And they would go to work together, they would eat lunch together, they would go home together. And that's basically how the relationship was. And they got married. And they're now divorced. And the person is younger than I am. Right? And I had said to the person, you need to be with that person for at least 1 year before you walk down that aisle. And I said to him, I'm happy for you. I'm happy that you think that this is the love of your life. But I don't think that you were ready to get married. And I'm getting down to the nitty-gritty of mentorship because this is a touchy point. But what I said to him is that you need to be in the relationship for at least a year because you need to go through a whole year cycle. And when you go through that, it gives the relationship, I think, enough time to breathe so that the honeymoon phase can be over and you can work on it. Because what he saw is, we spend so much time together, and the time that we spend together, it's equivalent to more than a year. Because we see if you're going to count the hours, he said it's going to be equal to more than a year of relationship than if you're just dating somebody on the weekends and texting and calling them on the phone. I said, okay, fine. But needless to say, they're divorced. And what I think tends to happen to some of us when we have our friends, especially the ones who we want to mentor, we need to be able to give them bad news. We need to be able to be so frank with them that to the point where they're even angry with you, because he was a little bit pissed at me, right? And he because he's a Christian, he believes in God, but he wasn't a church attending Christian.
Like practicing?
Yeah. Okay. But he's a Christian, and I said to him, hey bro, you not only do you need counseling, but you need to allow the relationship to breathe.
That's fair, yeah.
And in mentorship, one of the things that we need to do as big brothers or as people who are seeking for mentorship, what I do now is that I look for marriages that I admire. I look for the older ones, I look for the medium-sized ones, and I look for the younger ones. And I try to be around those people. Because let's face it, your circle, your inner circle, usually mirrors what your life is going to be like.
True.
And that's one of the rules that I would say is of mentorship, is to find what your inner circle, what you would want your inner circle to be like. Identify those people and spend as much time as you can around those people. Because otherwise you are going to end up being in a situation whereby you're wondering, how did I reach here?
Right.
You're wondering. So as it relates to mentorship and education, you need to identify the people who you admire, spend some time around them. It doesn't necessarily have to be a pastor or even an elder in the church. It can be someone who is upstanding in the church. And I remember you had a text that you wanted to don't forget the text.
I will not.
Yeah. Find someone who you admire, especially someone who is married, and spend some time around them. Get to know them. And it can also be single people too, because I'm not leaving out the single people.
Let's not leave them out.
Yeah, because there are single people out there who I also admire.
Yeah, definitely.
And they're living full lives, because being single doesn't mean that you're not living a full life. And as such, what would your pointer or pointers be as it relates to mentorship and seeking out mentors and being a mentor?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for sharing the, like, as you put it, the nitty-gritty of mentoring. I think so many things that flood my mind, but I think that, okay, so when it comes to mentorship, I think we can both agree and all agree that it is necessary, it is important, and we would be unwise, especially as young adults and youth, and hopefully the older folks in the church too, to not seek mentorship. It is unwise, and the scriptures are clear too, and it encourages actually seeking out mentorship and being properly discipled. I just wanted to read this first before I got into it. In 1 Peter chapter 5, verse 1 to 5, I think it says, "So I exhort the elders among you, as a fellow elder and a witness of the sufferings of Christ, as well as a partaker in the glory that is going to be revealed. Shepherd the flock of God that is among you, exercising oversight, not under compulsion, but willingly, as God would have you, not for shameful gain, but eagerly, not domineering over those in your charge, but being examples to the flock. And when the chief shepherd appears, you will receive the unfading crown of glory. Likewise, you who are younger, be subject to the elders. Clothe yourselves, all of you, with humility toward one another, for God opposes the proud, but gives grace to the humble." And that's just an outline of, like, hey, in the church, it literally...
Which text was that, by the way?
1 Peter chapter 5, verse 1 to 5.
Okay.
And it's interesting because I look at, a number of churches, and it's not an area that we really sort of, we emphasize or highlight in the church. Mentorship and discipleship is so important. And especially in this day and age, man, my peers and I are easily perishing, because we don't have that proper guidance. We don't have that mentorship. And one of the examples I'll use, now I understand I'm a woman and I don't know what it's like to be a man, but from the conversations I've had with my friends and my brothers, there are so many women, and let me talk about it from a female's perspective, a woman's perspective. Many of us gals, we talk about, like, man, where are all the godly men out here? And I'll walk away from that in a second, but I feel like this is a popular enough topic to talk about. We often, express our frustrations of, like, where are all the godly men? Where, like, what's happening? Like, how are there not good men out here, at least in this city? And I don't think it's because there are not enough men, but I think it's because there are many young Christian men that are not being mentored properly, that are being discipled properly. They don't have godly examples to look up to on how to be proper, I don't want to use that word, but how to be godly men. And how to be, the holy and humble sons of God that they're called to be. And so what you end up having is boys meandering around in the church, and these women thinking, man, they're just not godly men anymore. And so they start looking elsewhere. So everybody's just like, lost and perishing all over the place. And I wonder if that would still be the issue if our young men were being mentored properly, Yeah, you want to say something?
Yeah, so it's interesting that you say that, because the flip side is also correct, because a couple of my mentees is the word, would say the same thing, whereby, sometimes they would go out on a date with this person, or they would be talking to this person, and they would mention or speak in such a way that they feel like it's the same thing that they're getting from worldly young ladies, or young ladies who are not in the church. And he has told me already, like one of them has told me already, that, hey, it's the same thing, there's no difference, there's no difference. And I'm like, really, dude? And he's like, he's experiencing the same thing with young ladies in the church as young ladies outside of the church, whether it is sex, or whether it is that they want just money, or they want a guy that drives, or stuff like that. And I'm talking about in a Jamaican context, because the person that I'm speaking of, he's in Jamaica. But I haven't experienced that with any mentee in Canada where I'm at right now. But I am leaning towards thinking it's the similar or the same thing, because it's hard I don't know why it is that, as the Bible says, we are supposed to be the salt of the earth, but there's no difference. There's no seasoning in our Christianity.
Yes, I was gonna say the word that came to me is holy, which simply means set apart.
Yes.
We're not set apart. We're called to be set apart, but yet we look like everybody else.
Like everybody
we're
else.
not. We're no longer holy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I don't know what needs to be changed. I don't know what can be done, because this is a different topic, but what I tend to come across, especially from young people, is that they'll say church is boring. And and I know that church is what you put into it.
Ooh, say that again.
Yes, church is what you put into it.
Definitely.
So if church is boring, that means that you are boring. That means that you are boring. So as a result of that, now one of the things that I try to do is I try to be involved. And if I see someone new come to church, or a young person that's new that comes to church, I try to, first of all, get to know them, know what they're interested in, and know what they're like. Whether it is they're a singer or they're into gadgets or cameras or stuff like that. I try to see if there's some way that they can be facilitated and be a part of the of being active in church. So it's not just about going and sitting down and listening to a sermon every single weekend, whether it is on a Sabbath, Saturday, or Sunday. It is more about being present and being active and actively a part of spreading the gospel. I mean, now we're in the Zoom age whereby you don't have to go to church to be in church. So
bedside baptism.
Bedside baptism. I've never heard that one before. Bedside baptism.
My boyfriend told me that. I was like, it makes sense. Yeah, that's what it is. Bedside baptism.
But as you can see, we
bedside Baptist. Actually, I don't even know, but one of those two. Yeah.
But as you can see, we could go a long way about this. But what would your kind of final word be about being a mentor or a mentee, and what would your, because I love the scripture that you shared, but what would your final word be?
Yeah, for sure. I think for me, my final words would be just to reiterate what I said. It is needed. It is important, and I am imploring, if there are any church leaders out there, pastors, ministers, I am imploring you to please consider the importance of discipleship, because it is needed. I need it. My peers need it. Young adults and the youth need it. And more importantly, raise up young adults to be leaders so that we can peer mentor one another. And I think you kind of touched up on it too, but it's God has called us to be holy. And in also Peter, it talks about, we have been given everything we need to live a holy life. And holy, I don't want people to get scared when they hear that word, like, oh my God, holy. No, it just simply means set apart, consecrated. And we are supposed to be set apart from the world. We're supposed to set an example. We're supposed to lead by example. And we can't do that if we're not being discipled properly. So I am hoping, and here are my final words, that, if you're a leader, please consider mentoring somebody. It is needed. If you are, a leader in the church, a pastor, and you're married, and there's young adults in your church who are looking to enter relationships, show them what godly relationships look like. Demonstrate that to them. Welcome them into your life so they can see what marriage looks like, if that's what they so desire, so that they can see the in and outs of it, so that you can demonstrate what that, what a godly marriage looks like. One of the things I really appreciate about my pastor, shout out to Pastor Groom, and his wife Netz, is they are so good at welcoming people into their homes, and they show me what a godly relationship looks like. I am in awe of how they serve one another, and so do that for other people, and stepping away a little bit from the relationship aspect too. Young adults in the church still need mentorship in terms of like career areas too. These young adults are not like living and breathing within the four walls of the church. We do have to go out into the world.
Yes.
We do.
Yes.
And so when we do, we need mentors in terms of say, for example, if you have someone, who is in the church, a young adult, and they want to be an engineer, and you have an elder in the church, or like I was going to say an adult, an older person in the church who is an engineer, take them under your wings, mentor them, show them the ropes, show them around, so that they can be a well-rounded believer. So that they may represent the kingdom well, and they may go out and make disciples of many nations. But they cannot do that if they're not discipled well. And so that would be my final words.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. And you kind of summed up everything very, very nicely. And similar to myself, I would say find those examples. The church needs the body of Christ. Christianity needs to it doesn't matter the religion, needs to find a way to be mentors and find mentees, and even there's this rule in psychiatry that every psychiatrist needs a psychiatrist. And as a result of that now, because for me, even though I am mentoring somebody, I still look for people to mentor me.
Important.
I still look for people to mentor me.
Oh, and sorry, if I may interject. When you're looking for a mentor, make sure you find a mentor who also is being mentored.
Yes.
That in itself shows you where they stand and what they think of mentorship.
Yes.
So always find a mentor who has a mentor.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're correct. One of the people that
mentor you,
that mentors me, who I consider a father, is my current pastor, Pastor Emil Maxey. Shout out to you, Pastor Maxey. He also exudes to me being a Christian father, not a Christian, being what I would consider a great father, a great husband, and also there are different other people in the church who I won't mention, who I look up to and look at their marriages. And one of the things that I do almost religiously, pardon the pun, but like on Sabbaths, like after church, we would either have lunch at my home, or most of the times I end up at one of my mentors' homes for lunch. And being in their space, and being in their space, I get to see how they function as, being, whether it is the chef or the person who prepares the food, or the person who cleans up after the food is being consumed, or even just going to their houses for special days, whether it be for Christmas dinner or for barbecues on holidays, stuff like that. Those are the opportunities, I think, that can be used to be a mentor, or have your mentee see how you are within your home space, your home life, because it's one thing to say it, but it's the next thing to experience it, right? And with that, I would say, you're gonna say something?
Yes. If there's anybody out there listening to this, that is thinking, oh wow, I want to take that step, like I want to find a mentor, or somebody who's out there and thinking, hey, I actually would be interested in mentoring someone. Myself and my pastor are trying to put together a little program so that we can connect and link mentors and mentees, sort of like, have a little questionnaire where we can ask the mentees like what their interest areas are, and then match them with the right, hopefully, fit. Primarily it's to be mentored spiritually, but also to connect them with mentors that are in the field and profession or career in a field that interests the mentee as well, so that they can also mentor them in those areas. So like one of my friends, he is doing, I think he did business and finance or something like that. And we're hoping to connect him with someone from the church who is in that field. And so not only does he get mentored spiritually, but also in that area, he can have that person help him network and things like that. And so if you're interested and want to be added to that list, you can reach out to me. Feel free to reach out to me. Yorkwin, I'll give you my my email address that you can add in the
description.
In the description, and then people can feel free to reach out to me. Do you have any resources you want to add?
Yes, at the end of the podcast in the credits, we will be having, you will be able to reach out to the email that will be mentioned basically at the end of this podcast. And when you reach out to that email, we'll be able to disseminate all the information that you would want. Feel free to reach out to us at whatsitlike.with yorks@gmail.com or leave a comment in the comment section. And with that being said, I would like to thank you, Meseret, for being here, for visiting.
It's my pleasure.
I can tell you guys that she'll be one of the regular guests. She won't be here all the time, but she'll be one of the regular guests. And because I'm sure you guys don't want to see my face
That's not true.
all the while. But it was a pleasure having you here, Meseret.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you guys for joining in, and we will be seeing you in the next one.
Yes.
What's It Like with YORX is recorded at Imagine Studios with me, Yorkwin. Edited by Yorkwin. Produced by Yorkwin. Music by Trilo XV.